Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day?
Hello everyone, my name is Dean. Let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track the price of Bitcoin as a proxy for the cryptocurrency markets at large. Today is August 19th, 2025, and many market participants are completely unprepared for what Bitcoin is currently doing and what it's about to do. I'm also going to talk about why, despite this corrective downtrend that Bitcoin's been in and that most of the cryptocurrency market's in, why my clients and I are very, very much excited and expecting a very nice retest into a massive uptrend for a large majority of altcoins. Not every altcoin, but a large majority of them. So I'm going to talk about both of those things. If that all sounds interesting to you, then watch until the very end. Hope everyone's having a great day. Let's get into it, starting with Bitcoin. So it's been about 6 days, right? We started this downtrend on the 13th, and it's been about 6 days, and we've come down about 10%. So I would say, all in all, that's nothing massive. This is what I would constitute a bleed out, right? 6 days, very slowly, the price has come down from the all-time high of 124 down to the current price of around 112.8. Okay, so just a hair above 113K. It's not about the price, it's about the price action. Okay, what did I say in previous episodes? I said that this right here is what we call an impulse. Another word for that, or term, that Ralph Nelson Elliott used is a motive wave. So these are very dangerous. This is a term that I used in the previous episode. I put them in the titles not for clickbait, because that's what they actually are. They're dangerous. Why are motive waves or impulsive waves dangerous? Because they move from one place to the next, from demand to supply or supply to demand. In this case, it's supply to demand because it's a downtrend. And they do not stop until they reach their level. So in this case, we start from a level of high supply, and we're going all the way fishing, hunting, looking for high demand. Where is the high demand? That is the question many pose and ask me on social media, privately. Where does this bounce? My short answer, I don't know. I don't know if you're talking about an intermediate bounce, and I wouldn't even try. I talked about that in a previous episode. Don't try to catch the knife, right? So we're going to look at that, where it bounces with a high degree of probability, and what that's likely to look like, okay? But just trying to catch the knife and trying to say, oh, this is a level right here of, previous support. I think Bitcoin's going to bounce there. This is exactly what you don't want to do. That is catching a knife. We talked about that before. So I would not recommend that. And I'm not even going to try to do that. And I went as far as saying, I'm the guy who drew this Elliott wave impulsive progression, wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I just drew that out of a force of habit. In truth, I would completely put that out of your mind, okay? Because that's not how to play this. You do not want to try to preemptively judge support, okay? So look at this high time frame. Let's switch to our master chart right here. High time frame. This is a serious correction, right? And why are many unprepared? And when I say many market participants, I'm not just talking about the folks on Twitter. I'm not just talking about those of you listening. I'm not talking about only like private individuals. I'm talking about hedge funds. I'm talking about governments. I'm talking about coalitions, sort of companies that have invested in the asset. They're not ready for it. I have not seen any facsimile of my analysis anywhere, right? From time to time, I'll see a target that mirrors mine, but I've yet to see anybody say 55 to 60, 55 to 60, 55 to 60. Maybe there are some out there I just don't know of, but I've been saying that for hundreds of days. Why am I so adamant about the 55 to 60K level? This is important. When you're looking at a move that's as big or as potentially impactful as this, you don't want to look on the small time frames. You don't want to think small. You want to understand that this move is likely to express the force with which, or the force that's tantamount, that's equivalent to the amount of time it's taken to consolidate. So we talk about the longer the base, the higher in space. When you're looking at an accumulation, the same thing goes for a distribution channel. So basically, it's taken almost 300 days for this move to play out, right? Again, I had another episode that was titled "A Move in the 300 Days in the Making." That was not clickbait. Literally took 300 days to put this move together, as you can see in this purported distribution channel. And breaking down from this distribution is going to yield, it's going to wield rather, 300 days worth of accumulated supply back down onto the market. So understanding that makes one very cautious in trying to get in front of the steam train, or the freight train that is the impulse to the downside on this move. Okay, and the level, I think, is quite clearly 55. 55 is the level only because, and I'm just going to be quick about this because I've talked about this ad nauseum, right? That's this level. I think this is a 6-month consolidation, broke out, never retested, right? Resistance broken, never retested as support. All right, that's number one. Even more compelling is the idea that you have this massive 1500-day inverse head and shoulders that would be retesting the midline of. Okay, so you have right here the left shoulder, the head, and this would complete the right shoulder right here. Okay, and that's 1,000 days in the making right here. Do you see that? Right? Or sorry, did I say 1,000 days? 1,500 days. I keep downplaying that. 1,500 days. 1,500 days. And both this level right here and this level, right, as you can see, the price lines up with, when you do your support and resistance, this dotted line is respected over the course of those 1,500 days. They line up in confluence to the 55 to 60K level. Okay, what do I expect? Do I expect us to bleed all the way down here? No. These moves, you can study them, you can backtest them. I encourage you to do so. They're called capitulative retests. They happen before every pure bull market. Okay? Look at your Bitcoin chart and look and see how every single time before a pure bull market you got one such capitulative retest. The first was in 2010. You went all the way here, down. Okay? That was a move from 18 cents all the way down to a penny. That was a 95% move. That capitulative retest, it went on to spurn a bull market that took you all the way to $31 in Bitcoin, $32, right? That's exactly what we're talking about. The second such capitulative retest happened in 2015, August 2015, almost exactly 10 years ago, okay? And that took us from a high of $316 all the way down to $163, so a 48% retest. And again, look at the anatomy of these capitulative retests. So they kind of bleed over the course of a long while until they flash crash, if you will. And that flash crash happens within a week's time, because these are weekly candles. And then the recovery is swift and strong, okay? Again, the recovery in 2010 was swift and strong. Right here. Where is that? Sorry. Down here. Swift and strong. Big wick. So within the week, you not only dumped, but you recovered in that same week. And you actually put in a green weekly candle. Okay? So 2010, 2015, 2020, which I call the mini bull market, you had the same thing. You went from a high of 10K all the way down to around $3,900, okay? And that move was a 64% move thereabouts, okay? But again, I want you to notice that these capitulative retests, their anatomy is simply just of a flat correction, what we call an Elliott wave, a ABC flat correction, where the last wave, the capitulative retest, the motive wave, the impulse, is the C wave. It's the final capitulative wave completing the corrective tripart, like the corrective move that goes in a flavor of 3, because we know corrective patterns happen in a flavor of 3. I do not expect this move to be any different. Now, the question is, do we get that big wick down to 55K this week, next week, the week after next? I don't know. What does it look like? You know, how long exactly does it take? Well, you know, you can backtest it, but I don't think it takes that long. Once you're in the impulse, the definition of the impulse is you're gonna get to the point you need to get to in the most direct way with the least necessary consolidations. So don't expect much sideways price action. Do expect the price to continually dump in such a manner that it creates the maximal pain. When we talk about max pain, understand what that is. It is not some fat, overweight white man in an ill-fitting suit behind a mahogany desk pressing his palms together and laughing devilishly at people getting liquidated. It has nothing to do with an individual or a cabal of individuals that are trying to hurt you. Max pain is a natural function of the market. The market balances out. It evens itself out. So right here, when you had in August of 24, the buyers buying and people getting happy because they were buying and there was very little selling in the market will naturally correct that. When you have this function in the market where people buy, they leverage, they take more debt to buy more, well, guess what? Eventually the market corrects upon that to even out the buying and the selling. What is the force that does that? I cannot answer that question. It is the same force, I believe, that turns the heavens and that, you know, makes, you know, the galaxy spin and the earth spin. You can get ontological about this stuff. But markets, one of the reasons we can read markets and we can use uh we can see natural patterns, right, in markets, like, Fibonacci levels and Fibonacci uh sequences and such. It's because it's a natural function, right? Markets are derivatives of our buying and selling habits, right? So they naturally mirror natural phenomena. This capitulative retest and others are natural phenomena. Don't expect anything different. This is going to simply be an evening out, a balancing of the books, if you will. That's the best way I can explain it. Now, having that in mind, who's ready for that? Who is ready for that? What fund, what you know, what banks, what governments are ready for that? And not ready just in the sense that, oh yeah, nah, that can happen and I'm fine. No. A lot of people won't admit that they borrowed to buy more on the way up because they thought we weren't coming back down. We will soon find out who did what and when and with whom. And it begs the question, is the biggest player in Bitcoin ready? If you know, you know. MicroStrategy, now called Strategy, owns approximately 3% of the Bitcoin supply, apparently. Okay? I haven't verified this, but this is the word on the street. They're a big player. That is for sure. How did they come to own 3%? Was it just money they had under their mattress? Did they have a large endowment? Did they borrow? Did they leverage? Is it paper Bitcoin? We're going to soon find out. Markets bring things to fore when they're not manipulated. And when the market cap's large enough, they correct themselves. Even when they are manipulated, they eventually correct themselves. You will see MicroStrategy and others figure out or reveal, whether they like it or not, if they've been playing with fire. Because I don't care how big you are. I don't care what your position size is. We all deal with the same stuff. Okay, should we leverage? Should we not? Should we buy? Should we sell? When to sell, when to buy, all that stuff. We're all trading, whether your portfolio is $100 or $100 billion. So, according to CoinGlass, MicroStrategy's average buy is around 73K. By my best analysis, Bitcoin's likely going below that. So the question is, if they're legit and it's actual Bitcoin, like, actual Bitcoin, not leveraged, not paper, then it's no sweat. We can go down to 55. We'll quickly rebound, right? Just like I showed in 2010, 2015, the mini 2020 bull run, we quickly rebound. Once we hit that demand zone, boom, buyer step in, we start moving. Question is, can they survive that? And then it begs the question as well. Gives you 2008, vibes. When I talk 2008, I'm talking financial crisis, real estate crisis in the States. Wall Street. There were certain players that got exposed by the price, by the market moving down a certain bit. And because they got exposed, anybody who dealt with them, did business with them, relied on them, also got exposed. We're going to see if there is also a house of cards in cryptocurrency. Who lent MicroStrategy money? If they lent MicroStrategy money and then MicroStrategy, and they borrowed from other people to lend MicroStrategy money, and so on and so forth, so on and so forth, this too will be exposed by the market. This is the beauty of the market. This is why A mentor of mine once told me, the market is never wrong. Never blame market moves on anything extraneous to yourself and your own decisions, your own, calculations. You always take responsibility for what happens to you in the market, what you do in the market, because in fact, it always self-corrects, and the correct assumption and the most healthy assumption and the most sound assumption is that the market is always correct. So we will see. This is what I want to say about Bitcoin and what it's doing right now. Now, why am I and my clients, why are we so excited about what's happening in this market? Well, this is why. When you look at the total 3, okay, and this is a great indicator to see what altcoins are doing. They, as a result of this retracement, are getting closer to their bottom, to their main level of demand, to their main level of support, okay? This move right here is going to take you eventually, right? This is a nice M-top bearish reversal pattern, the height of which, once it breaks, takes you right down to this level right here, which is a perfect retest of this break right here. You broke resistance, you retested as support, now you're gone. Why is that so exciting? Well, again, this total 3 is an indicator. It's a way to generally gauge where altcoins are at. Is every altcoin going to move exactly once this hits this level? No, but a majority of them will. Okay, will some move before? Will some move after? Yes. Have some already moved? Yes. This is why it's so exciting. Who's paying attention to that? Who knows what I'm talking about? Right, one of the assets that my clients and I trade has moved, and just yesterday, right, we were bleeding out in Bitcoin, bleeding out in Ethereum. Most of the market was bleeding, and all the while, this coin did 100%. When people talk about a bull market, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're pumping," and then they try to troll me because I'm saying, "Oh, we're gonna dump." Bitcoin moved 2%, and they're like, "Oh my God." I'm like, dude, it's 2%. You don't know what a bull market is. And I understand that this is an altcoin and Bitcoin's Bitcoin, vastly different market caps. But when it pumps, Bitcoin too will make the 2%, 3% moves of the bear market a laughable affair. Here is an actual bull market move. Many people have since forgotten. Yesterday, this is a daily candle, yeah? Right? I'm on the daily time frame quite clearly. This is a daily candle, meaning within 24 hours, you can see that API 3 went from 82.6 cents all the way to $1.86. That's a 125% move. This is customary. This is typical in a bull market. Okay, this is the kind of thing we get excited about. When people are like, "Oh my God, it pumped so much," and "Oh my God, this happened, that happened," nothing happened. That is something happening. And you will see that. And when I say, when the bull market happens, there will be no doubt it's a bull market. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. When coins move double and triple digits regularly, day in and day out, and the retracements are commensurate with that kind of bullish momentum, that's when you start printing. That's when we start doing the levels thing. And, we sell this, we buy that. We sell this, we buy that. We rinse and repeat. That is the stuff we've been waiting years for in this market. And if you don't know or you're confused, this is an example, okay? So this is why my clients and I are super excited about this retracement, because this retracement basically means that every altcoin that is currently on support has now hit the ultimate support before the larger alt season moves. And the larger alt season moves look just like the one I just showed you. The other thing I'm looking for as Bitcoin, does its thing and goes and does its capitulative retest, the other thing I'm looking for, what keeps me up at night, is this chart right here, the Bitcoin dominance chart. Okay? And the Bitcoin dominance chart, as I've said before, is also my other indicator as to when I should expect double and triple digit moves in my altcoin portfolio, in my clients' altcoin portfolios. Okay, again, does that mean every single altcoin is going to move as soon as this happens? No. Will some move after? Yes. Will some move before? Yes. This is just another indicator. It just gives us a general understanding, right? A gauge on the market. And what am I looking for on this chart? Very simply, I'm looking for the midline retest. This is a 765-day channel if you don't know this chart. 765 days, channels breaking down. Remember, Bitcoin dominance going down is what we want in alt season, because that basically means altcoins are creaming Bitcoin. To break a channel, you must retest the midline. That's exactly what we're aiming for. So we're looking for that midline retest. And this is playing out. We've found support in Bitcoin dominance. We're looking for that move to the midline. Once that happens, we know we start printing. Literally, we start printing. That was my update, guys. I hope that was helpful, useful. Like, share, and subscribe if you got value. Consider tipping me, Litecoin, Venmo, Cash App, all at the pinned comment below. Consider my crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation service. If you want to trade with my clients and I, right, we choose up to 5 altcoins. Not every altcoin is going to pump in alt season. When I say altcoins, I do not mean every altcoin. There are certain altcoins that aren't going to do shit. And it's up to you to figure out what is and what's not. And it has very little to do with your fundamental analysis and who bought what and when, and who the CEO is, and the use case and all that stuff. It's just very clear on the charts. Okay, so that you can sign up to at the pinned comment below. Choose up to 5 altcoins, and then we regularly post levels of support and resistance so you can maximize your portfolio during the course of the alt season. And last but not least, consider the offer by the exchange partner, BTCC. It's a very reputable exchange. It's never been hacked. They're based out of London, and they're actually the longest running crypto exchange in the world. And they're offering my community 10% cash back on any deposit, any new deposit onto the exchange. You just have to make an exchange or deposit minimum of 500 USDT or the equivalent, and within 7 days after making a trade, you get that cash back. So that sign up is also at the pinned comment below. Guys, take care, and I will see you next time. Bye.
I vocalize, too deep to localize, even when I'm right on the surface. You act surprised how I work this, but I can't lie. Many a good alibi. I'll catch you later. Visions are vividly enhanced with emphasis and amethyst to develop morale advantages which help us manifest magnanimous. We body vitals like evangelists. So listen when you're dealing with people who be revealing premonitions with precision. At least that's what I'm aiming at for now. I speak the language of the world, meandering through the crowd. Used to feel safe to say anything, but now it's a risk. It's hard for me to let go when all I can do is reminisce. Gone like the wind, here's where I begin. Should I smile or should I grin what's happening?